Sword of the Seven Suns by Gardner F. Fox, originally published in Planet Stories, Spring 1947. Read by Jon Gill. Part 4. The arm he held in his powerful hand was soft and slender. The hood fell back, and in the moonlight Flame gazed into a white face in which red-brown eyes stared back at him. Massy coils of red hair that blew in the breeze came loose and flickered across his face. He breathed in the faint perfume of the girl and looked at her full, red mouth. All red, she seemed, and the smooth sheen of her skin was like the satin stuffs that came from distant Yila. Flame grinned at her. "Girl," he whispered, "you walk with death tonight," and drew her with him out of the path of a thrown knife that clanked against a brick wall behind where they stood. "Fall back!" a tall stranger yelled at him, and Flame drew the girl and Valdar with him into an alleyway. "We have mounts beyond the Dragon Gate," she said hurriedly, stumbling along. "We came for Valdar, knowing the rebellion that threatens his life." Flame turned to Valdar, seeing his face redden in the crimson light of the flambeau inset in the wall overhead. "The key you gave me," he said hurriedly. "It didn't work." "I know. I've learned the real key in the meantime," the girl whispered swiftly. "Can you use it? Turn the machine on tonight?" "That's why we came, knowing that any hope of using the machine depends on you, Valdar." The man shook his head. A laugh sat in his throat, almost evil in bitterness. Against the background of clashing blades and grated oaths and the rasping breathing of men fighting in the streets, it was hollow in despair. "Tonight? No. And not for many nights after this, and perhaps never, because, you see, a shout hurtled upwards from the throat of a man who was turning into their alley. Men raced behind him, shouting. With his naked left arm, Flame swept the girl behind him, grinning, whispering, "Now they've caught us, between two gangs in this alley." "Can't we reach the gate with the dragons?" said the girl. "We have Megathron stallions waiting there. We could go across the desert together, all of us." Flame disengaged his blade from the sword of the first Mechnics and lunged beneath his guard. As the man fell, Flame shoved him back onto the others, working his blade, butchering calmly. In the closeness of the mob who rushed him, there was no room for finesse. He shortened his blade and stabbed. "Megathons," Flame whispered in the night. "They are native to the southern regions, one-horned horses. There was only one city-state of the Klarvna in the south, Mornal. Yet Mornal was remote from Klarn. So remote that since the machine went dead, it was looked upon almost as a myth." "Yes," said the girl, in answer to Flame's quick questions. "From Mornal, we too have felt the bite of want without the machine to feed us. We are desperate." The last man fell in front of Flame. He whirled and raced towards the blue-coated men who were fighting at the alley's entrance. "To the gate!" he shouted, and broke the ring of Mechnics and was in the clear. His redly dipping blade, like the darting tongue of a swamp snake, fought Flame like a man gone mad. His feet danced the incartata, even as his bare left hand swept aside, point and blade. With lunge and carasado, he played his blade in the torchlight, engaging the Mechnics. They cursed, but in their breath was the fright of grim death. These men had seen Flame fight before. They knew his reputation and the magnificent steel of his sword. They broke slowly, but when they finally did, they ran. The girl was staring at Flame with dark moons for eyes, standing solitary under the stone lintel of the gate. He shot towards her, put out an arm and swept her up against him, racing beyond the gate. The hooves of the Megathons were stamping on the stone causeway as they came into the open. Flame saw Valdar already high on an ornate saddle, gesturing. A horse reared against a moon, 4 hooves pawing wildly. A Mornalian shouted something, swinging his mount's head towards the gate, but Flame only saw and heard these things dimly. For the girl was in the crook of his arm, pressed soft against him, was working a strange magic on him. He saw her face framed by the wild red hair and the dark, mysterious eyes and the generous mouth. Under moonlight, she was enchantment come to life. He bent and kissed her. Dimly, He realized that he was mad to stand kissing this girl while men shouted and horses whinnied. But he put the thought from him. The storm broke then. There were men with swords all around them, shouting triumph. Shoulders bumped them, drove them against a horse. Flane heard Valdar yell, saw him bend from the saddle and stretch an arm towards them. "I tried to warn you. The Magnics have come in force. Man, move yourself." Flane threw the girl high in the air. Across his saddle, with the flat of his hand, he slapped the rump of a plunging Megathon. Then Flane was leaping, grasping reins with sure hands, his foot feeling for a carven stirrup. "We'll divide," Flane yelled to the Mormalian. "The Magnics want us most of all." They were off in a clatter of hooves, striking sparks from the cobblestone driveway, leaning forward over the necks of the Megathons, reins loose. Flane looked at Valdar, positive that he grunted. But Valdar waved a hand, and they went on. For once in his life, Flane was glad that the machine was dead. If it were alive, the Magnics would have swept their group with guns that would have turned them into drifting powder. But now only a few arrows fell and bounced on the stones behind them. They were going away from the Mornalians now. Flane saw them, bobbing shadows, moving into the night. He flung up an arm and waved. There was red hair blowing free in the wind over there, and Flane felt as though he watched his life ebbing from him, staring across at her. The Megathons were swift. Flane thought with surprise that they were even faster than the horses of the Clarn. Then he saw the thin horn protruding up from the forehead of the beast. It was filed to a point and coated with metal. He grinned. This was a fighting Megathon, spawned and bred for a special job. He gave the animal its head and let him run into the night. End of part 4. Thank you for listening.